Welcome to the September 9th OpenJ9 community call. As always, please add your name and affiliation to the attendee list just so we know who's been attending the call. And as usual, we will pause for a minute for people who want to add something to the agenda that may not already be there. So if you have any other business that's not covered by our usual list of things that we cover, then feel free to add that to the list or to raise it now. In particular, if there are community-centered discussions that need to happen, different from the sort of regular release updates that we handle, please raise those now. We don't have a lightning talk scheduled yet, but we have had people working on new features coming in 15, and so that may be an opportunity to talk about those. I know there's been a lot of work going on around changing our method handle implementation, so we may have a lightning talk around that in the future. If there are other lightning talks people would like to give or like to see, please add them to the agenda here and we'll see if we can get them scheduled. All right, and then as we usually do, we'll take a look at the user raised issues, in particular the ones that have come in over the past week. So I see two that have come in and both of them have discussions going on. So it looks like they're getting attention. So I'm not sure there's much more that we need to dive into here, unless there's something in this list that somebody would like to discuss. All right, then we'll move back to the agenda. This is the usual reminder on creating help wanted issues and beginner issues to make sure that the community is inviting and open to people who want to get started on hacking on OpenJ9. So please do make a point of creating issues and tagging them as beginner issues so we can get more people engaged. All right, we'll take a look at the dashboard and see what the download trends have looked like. So if we look at just the OpenJ9 trend, that's a pretty big jump in downloads over the past couple of days. Does anyone know what's responsible for that major jump? Has Hotspot seen a similar jump? It's been a pretty steep jump there as well, so that's interesting to see. If anyone knows what the cause of that is, I'd be interested to know more.
It's just a single day, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
But it is, how much is that? About 45,000, isn't it?
Yes, it's quite the jump.
So you can twiddle with the filters to work out what version it was, etc. So I can have a little play with that to see if I can work out which version.
Okay. If there's some other data we can get, that would be interesting as well, just to find out.
It's tricky. Well, I've tried that before, and it's because of the sources they come from. It's not always easy to really identify.
Okay, so it looks like it's a jump in the Docker downloads, which is when we've tried to look into in the past, we haven't been able to get the data. So
it looks like JDK8 has jumped from about 11,000 to 54.
Interesting.
Maybe some project has switched over to using OpenJ9 from us.
We have seen, the Docker problem before, where some, was continually downloading. Fortunately, that environment can make it easy to just continually pull if you're not realizing it.
Yeah, I think when we had that discussion last time, Docker indicated that it was not a single or small number of IPs that were pulling it over and over again. So our original theory had been that somebody's CI infrastructure had gone nuts, and
Yeah,
was pulling repeatedly, and they said that was not likely to be the case.
Yeah. So that trend, because that continued for about a month or two and then stopped. That was the end of last year.
Yes. Okay, I don't think there's more we can get out of this now, but it is something to keep watching, and hopefully the upward trend continues.
Yeah, we shouldn't complain, really, should we? Goes the other way, it's slightly more worrying.
Yes. All right. So jumping back to our agenda, if we look at the 0.22 release, the Java 15 release coming up next week, I had agreed to do the Milestone 2 tags, but I haven't done them yet because I'm waiting to get one more PR in that will fix a number of remaining test failures. So there's been some discussion here. I think we were down to a sort of the final bit of review comments on this, and once we get this in, I should be able to get the tags created. So hopefully by the end of today, my time, I should be able to have the tags created, and I'll post that to the extensions repo channel on Slack so that everyone's aware and we can get the Milestone 2 build kicked off. It doesn't give us a lot of time to address any issues that are raised there, but it at least gives us a few days to know what may be coming. All right. And 0.23, just a reminder, we're past the code split date for that. And we have not done the Milestone 1 build for it yet. There's still a lot of items that are open in this plan, many of which I don't believe will be addressed in this quarterly refresh. So please do take a look at the items that are in here, especially those tagged against the components you're related to, and move them forward if they don't belong here anymore or they aren't likely to get addressed in this release. So I know we're in release mode for Java 15, but because of the timing, this is always the busy release section where the October release comes very quickly on its heels. And that'll require a lot of effort and push to be able to finish off the items in that milestone or get them triaged and moved out if they're not stop ship. In terms of the adopt update, does anyone have an update there?
Nothing significant, I don't think. I did tag you in an issue about the fact that we're looking at regenerating the way that the CA certs are produced and pulling them from Mozilla at adopt. That's the only real change that I'm aware of this week. It hasn't gone in yet, so it's still there for review if anyone wants to look at it.
I took a quick look at it, mostly from a what does that mean for OpenJ9 point of view, and it sounds reasonable. It means we'll have the up-to-date certs that people are expecting. Is there implications of that I'm missing?
If you are, I'm missing them too. I think that's pretty much why we're doing it. We do get people every so often coming to us and saying that they're missing ones that they expect to see. So it should be safe, but obviously I wanted you guys to at least be aware of it and look over it and see if there's anything that you might be concerned about. But yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay. Thanks, Stuart. In terms of the infrastructure update, Adam or Joe, is there anything that needs to be called out? I actually don't see either of them on the call, so I'm going to take that as good news that there's nothing major blocking our infrastructure right now. In terms of any other business, Devin, is there an update on the CMake migration?
So the AIX stuff, I had an issue there because as it turns out the CI machines that we have on the open side, there was some slight different configuration from what we had on the internal side. So that was breaking. It was causing some build failures there. I got the change for Omar. It got merged this morning, and I'm waiting for that to promote to be able to launch another build. I tried launching a build internally with those well, I didn't even need the changes there with the extra testing just to make sure that everything works. But as it turns out, there's something weird with our AIX machines internally, and that was so I talked to Adam, and he's probably off fixing that right now. And on the Windows side, I've been just working through PR comments to get that stuff merged.
Okay, so there was a PR open at OMR for the AIX stuff. Did that get merged?
Yeah, that's what I got merged this morning.
Okay. Okay. I'm just looking to see if Raghu is on the line or on the call for a discussion on the Kubernetes Helm chart and operator PR. I don't see him. I put some comments into that this morning, mostly around clarifying what the operator is intended to be doing, just to help drive and the discussion around what we need to do in terms of testing and in terms of supporting this. So hopefully we can get some answers and continue the discussion there as well. For the microjit issue, is there an update there?
So currently, we're still working on GCR. There's an upcoming talk, a couple of upcoming talks in CASCON that people are working on. And we're looking into adding support for J-profiling, which is expected to start shortly after GCR is finished. And so the beginning of that is kind of happening in parallel to the end of GCR. I'm currently looking for anyone who can tell me how to use a trampoline. I've recently added an assert checking to make sure that we're correctly jumping when things are, or rather that we are not incorrectly jumping when something's more than 4 gigabytes away. And in testing, that recently triggered, so I'm going to have to start adding support for trampolines soon.
Yeah, Daryl's probably your man for that. The trampoline code would have been designed a lot when he was heading up a lot of the Xcode gen work. So I'd probably talk to Daryl first.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Yep. So yeah, I think microjit's kicking along. It's just the the UNB guys I think are doing a great job addressing some of the concerns in the PR, and I think it's just the legwork to get it properly integrated, and then we'll be looking to get it merged. So hopefully another few weeks we'll be getting a bit closer.
That'll be ready to merge into the main line at that point?
Well, I think that I think the GCR stuff is going to be a couple of weeks, and then we've got to look at the linkage side of it, which is going to need a little bit more help. So it's going to be a little bit of time, but I think the changes are making some very significant improvements to the proposed contribution, and it's going to save quite a lot on the maintenance. There's going to be a lot less dual maintenance, so I think it's the right thing to do. It's unfortunate that it's leaving the PR in limbo for as long as it is, but I have to say that I'm very grateful to the guys and gals at UNB that are looking at doing this contribution and their openness to accepting some feedback and to working with us on getting some of this stuff addressed. So I think it's going to be an even better contribution once we get to the end of it. So I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. It is moving along. It's just the PR will be there for a little bit while these integration issues are sorted out.
Okay. And then I assume this is still accurate. The next meeting is tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah, next meeting will be tomorrow afternoon, 3:30.
All right. Just checking to see if Daryl is on the call, and I don't see him.
No, I know Scott's been talking to Daryl directly anyway, at various points, just for some pointers. So there's a lot of collaboration going on between various contributors and committers and the folks at UNB. So I'm very positive that this will make some good progress.
Okay, excellent. I was actually looking for Daryl, though, because the next item is one that he's wanted on the agenda for a couple of weeks now and hasn't been able to be here for the discussion. And that's removing the ARM32 support from OpenJ9. As I don't see him on the call, we'll have to push this forward again. But if you do have concerns or anyone wants to step up and own that port, please comment in the issue there. All right, and the final thing that's already on the agenda is the Snapshot project. So there's been a group that has been working on basically adding CRIU or checkpoint restore in user space at the JVM level to OpenJ9. And that prototype code is ready to come out and be opened up and collaborated on in the open. And so what I'd like to do with that code is to put it into a branch in the project, probably called Snapshot, and manage that branch in much the same way the JIT server code was managed, as a way to track the main line and collaborate openly and with the prototype so people can pick things up and try it. But with the same expectation that before any of the code makes it back into the main line, it would be done through pull requests that are well described, re-reviewed, and merged as appropriate. It would not be a dump of the entire branch back in. So I'm looking for whether there are any concerns around creating this branch on the project, because I'd like to do that this week to get those initial contributions created.
I think when this was raised, I forget where the discussion was, but I think somebody was asking about why a branch and not a separate repo, just because dragging the history around of that branch forever was kind of, even after it's being merged, was kind of one of the questions. I'm sure there's a logical answer. I'm not a Git guru, but I remember somebody asking that kind of question, so I just thought I'd raise it.
Yeah, that question was asked just a couple of days ago around whether to delete the JIT server branch. And I believe the answer was that that history is still useful for being able to understand how the code has evolved. I know that when I still had access, I continually went back to the internal history for the OpenJ9 project to figure out why things had changed or been designed in the way that they were. And I think it's a very similar reason here, is that having it in the branch means that the history is with the code that we are continuing to maintain, making it very easy to find and understand why something was designed the way it was.
Sure. Yeah.
So I will also post this on Slack and just make sure that I get any feedback. But unless there are strong objections to this, I'd like to proceed with creating that branch this week.
Are we going to have a set of people that are sort of identified that are going to keep it fresh like we did with the JIT server? Like I know Eunice and Marius and various other contributors were always bringing the branch up to date. Do we have any names for who's going to keep the branch fresh if it's going to be carrying along and then it's going to get rebased on mainline?
Yes, so I will step up to own making sure that that branch is kept up to date. And
all right, awesome.
We'll identify others as we go along.
Do we need a special copy for OMR for this as well?
Yes, there will be a branch on the OpenJ9 OMR for this.
Okay, so if it's possible, I would prefer to have changes in GC live and mainstream if they are not really impacted everything else as usual, to minimize number of changes required between this branch and main GC code.
Okay, I'm happy to do that as much as possible to put code into the main line. The reason for keeping it separate at this point has been we're still making fairly significant changes and we didn't want to be impacting the mainline code while we're still finding the right path and the right design for this. So if there are pieces that we can put into the mainline, I'm happy to do that right away. I just don't want to be causing unnecessary risk into the release deliveries.
Yes, I agree. But sometimes it might be extra API, might be some small refactoring of code. So these things better to have in mainline.
Agreed. Yep. I'm happy to do that, Dimitri. So.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other business people wanted to discuss today? All right, then. Thank you, everyone, and we'll meet again next week.
Thanks.
Thank you.